frontier science and application, sir. Once again, sir. Audience can see Dr. Jimon from Tiruvandhapuram, Kerala. On behalf of the Assam Kaziranga University and IFSA, we once again welcome you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the presentation session of today's inaugural session. I request you all to be please seated.
At the very outset, we would like to invite Dr. Abhijit Mukherjee to deliver or share his experience today evening.
Currently, he is serving as the Professor of Geology and Geophysics in IIT Kharagpur. He has been awarded with the Shanti Swarup Bhatnagar Prize for his contributions to Earth, atmosphere, ocean and planetary sciences in 2020. He is globally known for his studies on geological and human-sourced groundwater pollution. His work has provided input to the government in understanding countries' drinking water and food security. He has also done extensive work on groundwater quantity and scarcity by understanding decadal scale groundwater storage changes over the Indian subcontinent by using advanced computation and artificial intelligence techniques.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome him to the lectern with a big round of applause.
A very good evening to the distinguished guests here and the esteemed audience. It's my sheer delight to be here today and to be invited to this August conclave. And I've got the privilege to talk first, so I don't know what to talk about. Anyway, I'll just introduce myself. So I presently serve as an associate professor, not professor yet, at the Indian Institute of Technology, Kharagpur, which, as you know, is the first IIT that has been set up back in 1949. And I have joined here about 12 years now. I've been serving at the Department of Geology and Geophysics, as well as I technically head the School of Environmental Science and Engineering at IIT Kharagpur. My background has been I was born and brought up in Kolkata, Calcutta those days, and my school and university was in Kolkata, Calcutta University. And after that, I got my graduate, BSc and MSc degrees from Calcutta Universities, and then I also had a computer science degree from one of the national institutes. And then I moved to the US to do my PhD and postdoctoral. I worked there for a while, worked in Canada for a while, before I decided to come back to India in 2010. So one of the impetus for which I decided to come back, I had a permanent position in US and Canada, but I decided to come back and work in the Indian system because I felt that there is, whatever training I've gotten in North America, there is a lot that I can contribute in the building the nation that we are in. So my specialization, as the actor had been kind of referring to, is on groundwater. So my main research is in groundwater. I'm technically what you would call a hydrogeologist. And I work mostly on the flow and chemistry of groundwater through geologic systems. However, over the years, I have been also working with other disciplines, and I have also started realizing the potential of networking and collaborating with colleagues from other departments. So in today's time, I just don't work on groundwater, but I work in drinking water. And as you know, like drinking water is one of the prime things that like we need to address as one of the sustainable development goals in this planet as well as in India. So I've been working with my colleagues in India as well as across the world to kind of change those goals. So I work in groundwater pollution, like we are in Assam. I was basically just before I came here, I was just traveling with my student who is also working here doing his PhD research and trying to visit places very close to the campus where we know there are arsenic pollution in groundwater. And we are trying to determine what are the causes for it. It's natural. So what are the geologic causes? What are the behaviors? What are the principles that would be governing it? So we are trying to learn the arsenic contamination in the Brahmaputra basin. I have two of my PhD students who have already graduated working in this area, like in Jorhat and Golaghat areas. I also do work extensively with ISRO and NASA to understand the groundwater quantity. So, like you can think about the pollution in the water, but the water has to be there in the first place. So I do work with very closely with them in some of their missions, trying to understand how much groundwater and drinking water is available for the Indian subcontinent. I'm definitely working with my colleagues in computer science, data science. I have been working in integrating big data analytics and referring it to policy development. So just like our chief guest was talking about, serving to the society, right? Science to the society. So in whatever capacity we can in my group, we have been trying to do that, where we are trying to go for understanding the water problems, mostly in the rural hinterlands, and then get those knowledge, generate big data, analyze them with the latest technology that we can get, and eventually translate them to policies, working with social scientists. So that's what I do, and that's what I've been doing for the last about 20 years, trying to solve the water crisis in India. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, sir, for your kind words. Now, we would like to call Dr. Binoy Kumar Saikia to deliver his presentation.
Dr. Saikia is a principal scientist at Northeast Institute of Science and Technology, Jorhat, NIST. His research interests span energy and environment in general, and in particular chemistry and technology of coal, carbon, and nanomaterials, atmospheric aerosols, and air pollution. He has developed and presented both in India and the United States of America a technology for the production of blue fluorescent carbon quantum dots from Indian coal. He is presently having numerous patents and high quality publications in different relatively relevant journals in his very young career. So please.
A very good evening to all of you. It gives me really a very pleasure to be here. I can say again because I visited 2 times before Kaziranga University, and it is now more pleasant and more experience and more learning because we have eminent personalities physically as well as online. So I think as per the event is organized, it's really a relevant and a timely event because what I feel you know, yes, there is a scarcity of S&P leaders in our country. Although we are having some of the ranking all over the world, in the publication wise, we have among the 3 countries in the world. But then also we feel that it is very necessary to have such type of events and to how to go ahead as the Sami he has told the purpose of the meetings. So I'm very happy, and I think is already just about my introduction. So I will not go for introduction regarding what I'm doing, but I think I have few direct or directly if I go to a few of the points I'm really interested to share with my colleagues and as well as with the organizer. Actually, in the first inaugural session, Dr. V.K. Saraswat and Dr. Kapotkar, they told a very, very interesting points I feel it is really required. So actually, this point when Dr. Goswami sir, he told that what is the problem in science, his government is not giving fund or we are not really, scientists are not really able to give the most, required problems for funding. This is a very important point, and I feel personally I found most of the researchers or people that they are actually sometimes they fail in giving problems or sometimes in government also not. This is my personal opinion. Sometimes government also due to some of the systems they are not able to select or detect proper point of the science. So these 2 points I personally have some confusion, and so it has to be discussed more in detail. And actually one thing I just something came into my mind. In spite of having position in the world ranking, why Indians are not able to be the global leader in science and technology, and how it is measured. We all know in the publications, prizes or other awards for technology. So sometimes I think why India are not able to get a Nobel Prize after similar one. This point strikes into my mind. Why? So is there a problem with the scientists or the science or the system or what? So just something came into my mind. PV Sindhu, she got silver medal in the Olympic. Then I searched her profile after getting the Nobel. This medal. So she got much more as money, I can say directly, than the gold prize winner of US. So in India, she got much things than the gold medal winner. So what I want to emphasize, there may be a lack of something that government has to or the other NGO or society has to do, like I have said. So this is a right forum to discuss these things and to submit the proper policy as Guru Swami had told in the beginning. So these things, just some of the points that we can discuss in these things. And also, one day I was just maybe 1 month before, one day I was talking with my colleagues that why the funding sometimes, but money is not a problem. This is, I agree that the funding or money is not a problem, but how to get it and just a point I want to give. So one of my friends, he's also a scientist, he told me that you have a project of, I have a few projects of crore. I have 3 projects of 2.5 to 3 crore per project. So then he told me, you have a 2 crore projects, but to construct a road from Kaziranga University to NIST, this only 10-15 kilometers, it is having 25 to 30 crores. So there is a difference, the funding things has to be properly forwarded to the proper authority. So I think this discussion with eminent scientists and eminent personalities will be very fruitful for the next agendas or next discussion. Thank you very much for giving the opportunities. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you once again for your insight into the particular topic and expertise that you have in this domain. Thank you once again, sir.
May we now invite Dr. Jimon Panyamkal virtually to connect to us and deliver his deliberation.
Dr. Panyamkal is a faculty member in Achyuta Menon Center for Health Science Studies in Thiruvananthapuram, Kerala. He was awarded the Shanti Swarup Bhatnagar Prize for Science and Technology in Medical Sciences in 2021 for his contribution to public health. Presently, he has been supported with grants from several global organizations, including Wellcome Trust, Medical Research Council from United Kingdom, National Health and Medical Research Council from Australia, National Institute of Health from United States of America, and International Diabetes Federation. The floor is yours now. So please.
Thank you very much. It is indeed a great pleasure, rather an honor, to be in the august company of eminent scientists, colleagues, students, and other media persons present in this room. Thank you very much for this opportunity. Today, let me briefly talk to you about the importance of achieving leadership, rather focusing on my area. I exclusively work in the area of chronic diseases, especially in the area of cardiovascular disease and diabetes, and why we need leadership to achieve or bring down the mortality attributable to this condition. Let me start with some figures. Unfortunately, I need to start with some obituary note. Globally, if you look at it, cardiovascular disease causes approximately 19 million deaths. And in India, if you take it around now, we have around 2.6 million deaths happening annually. If you're comparing this figure to, we were all scared by the COVID pandemic. We know that if you compare the number to the COVID pandemic, these numbers are much larger. And therefore, it has already reached the pandemic, beyond the epidemic proportion level, and at the global level, a pandemic itself. In India, it contributes approximately 1 of 4 deaths. And if you're talking about conditions like diabetes and hypertension, at least 1 of 5, 1 of 4 to 1 of 3 individuals will have one of these conditions. And what are the causes, what are the transitions that leads to these conditions? If you look at it, there are multiple reasons for it. There are demographic transitions. We are talking about demographic dividends that helps us to achieve greater heights in science and technology. But the same demographic dividends may work against these chronic conditions, because as we age, more and more chronic conditions will emerge. We also talked about economic development. We need science and technology to advance our economy, and economic development is very crucial for us. But when we are talking about health conditions, specifically conditions like cardiovascular disease conditions, we are in a conundrum. We are talking about a developmental dilemma here, because we know that economic growth is very crucial for good health, and it is also important for increasing the life expectancy. And as we already know that when the life expectancy increases, the probability to develop chronic conditions like cardiovascular disease also increases. And for economic growth, we need industrialization, we need globalization, we need urbanization as well. And that propels the economic growth, but again, that propels conditions like cardiovascular disease conditions. If you actually look at the productive life years, it is around 20 to 65 years, the most important health conditions that is affecting the productivity of this population is cardiovascular disease condition. And it has been emerged as one of the top 10 threats to the global economic growth as well. So this is the conundrum that I'm trying to portray to you. Now we are facing difficulties because of the economic growth, because of the way that economic growth is happening as well. Therefore, the $1 trillion question for us to answer is that how do we reconcile the economic aspirations of countries like India with the protection of cardiovascular health and prevention of chronic diseases? I think this is where we need the public health needs to meet the sustainable development and social justice. And this is where we need an integrated approaches to science and technology. We need advancement in science and technology in the right direction. And approach, but the problem that we are facing, the leadership acne that we are facing, is that we are at the moment simply cataloging the catastrophe with greater and greater precision. And probably we are also planning a mere coping response that is not sufficient enough because the condition, the epidemic actually demands a corrective response. And the corrective response would actually come from advancement in science and technology. There is no magic wand, there is no miracle that we can think about which happens and which corrects everything. Unfortunately, we need to invest more in our health management and information system. We need to have good surveillance system to understand the risk factors, the behavioral, biological risk factors of disease conditions like chronic disease conditions. We would like to need to monitor these events over a period of time, both fatal and non-fatal events. We need to bring in multi-sectoral coordination across multiple sectors like the fiscal monitoring, the regulatory issues, the legal issues. We need to bring in a lot of component of education like the mass media component. We need to include clinical care. We need to expand the definition of our universal health coverage. If we can expand the number of commodities, the basket of commodities included in the universal health coverage by bringing in new innovations in terms of health workforce, bringing new innovations in terms of new drugs, new technologies for managing health conditions, and new modern we would be probably able to achieve a reduction in cardiovascular disease in the future. But the real problem is that why is it so hard to bring changes at the population level? We know what we do need to know, what do we need to do, but unfortunately, all that knowledge is lying in our shelves. We are not taking that knowledge to the community, to the population. And there is a price for inaction if we don't act upon it. There is an estimate which generally says that if you don't act upon cardiovascular disease conditions globally, it would lead to a loss of something like $47 trillion over a period of 10 years. And our own estimates suggest that in India, if you don't act upon cardiovascular disease conditions, annually we are losing approximately something around $1.8 trillion, which we cannot afford. When we are talking about advancement in science, advancement in economy, we cannot afford to do that because people in the productive are getting affected. And at the same time, if we can invest more amount of money and energy and resources to control this epidemic, we would be able to save millions of lives. Along with that, we would be able to make millions of population to more productivity. It would really require regulatory innovation. It would require workforce innovations because we know that the doctors are a scarce commodity in our country. We need to therefore think about how we can utilize non-physician healthcare workers as well by including clinical algorithms, clinical decision-making process, including the strength of public health intelligence, including the strength of information technology, including the strength of digital patient-centered technology. We need to enforce the workforce to get more useful results. And then we need to also expand our universal coverage so that we could cover a large chunk of our population at an affordable rate, and it would not incur any additional expenses in terms of out-of-pocket expenditure. And probably I'll stop my talk by quoting from Toni Morrison from the Song of Solomon. If we don't create the future, the present extends itself. Unfortunately, for cardiovascular disease conditions, we cannot afford to do that because we are already losing approximately 2.6 million deaths annually in India. And we need to therefore engage with the community, engage with the scientific community. We need to bring in multidisciplinary research programs. Earlier speakers talked about the importance of bringing multidisciplinary research teams. But one of the problems that we are really facing is that we work in silos. It is pretty difficult for us to collaborate with people across other institutions. And even within our institutions, sometimes we fail to collaborate with each other. One of the reasons is that the resources that are available with us, even in public universities, we don't consider it as public good, and we are not willing to share this public good with others with like-minded people. And I think it is important for us to think about a governance mechanism And in that governance mechanism, if we could approach all the resources, we can pool all the resources, and anyone can approach all these resources or utilize these resources to the best possible way, then we would probably be able to advance science and technology in a better way, and then achieve what we intend to achieve in the next 50 years or so. Thank you very much for listening to me.
Thank you so much, sir, for your valuable input.
It is time to call to the lectern, Dr. Kanak Saha.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome him to the lectern. Dr. Kanak Saha is an exceptional astrophysicist presently associated with Inter-University Center for Astronomy and Astrophysics, Pune University. He has made the path-breaking discovery of a faint galaxy at a high redshift, detected by deep observations using India's first space observatory, AstroSat. His recent works throw light on the formation of long-standing spiral structures and dynamics of galaxies. He is associated with various journals and funding agencies in capacity of editorial board members and reviewer. He has numerous publications in leading journals such as Nature, Nature Astronomy, etc.
So please.
Good evening. First of all, I'd like to thank the organizer, Dr. Mishra, Dr. Shami, for inviting me here, and the hospitality of the university. Thanks a lot. I work at the Inter-University Center for Astronomy and Astrophysics. It's a small institute very focused towards doing research in astrophysics. One of the mandate or our activities are actually to foster astronomy research in the university sector. So our institute is a vibrant visiting program in which allows the faculties, the new faculties to come at Ayuka to spend time to discuss research possibilities, and that's how right now it's a very vibrant institute. Coming back to very briefly what I do as I work on things like you may think is a very abstract, because I work on galaxies, but to remind you, like, this is to that, how do I put in that long time ago, like, now we thought that we are at the center of the universe. The things have changed now. We started exploring the solar system, and then we know also that the sun is not the center of the universe. Sun is just one of the stars in a galaxy in which we live, which is the Milky Way galaxy. And my research is focused on understanding how this sort of our galaxy came into like the present state. So how the first galaxies formed in the universe. This is a sort of fundamental question in that sense, and I believe like this is exciting to many. answer such question, we also need to have a state-of-the-art technology building. And for example, I can give you an example. If you look at a naked eye in the sky, you can look at a star which is, say, a magnitude of 6 magnitude it says. What we can, if you want to actually like find out the first galaxy signatures actually in a telescope, you need to have to go to a very, very faint level. So, for example, the current, like, what you can think about is that how faint can we like look. So compared to the 6 magnitude, you can think about like a number which is like astronomical in that sense. It's like 10,000 billion times fainter. So that's the kind of like faint objects that we try to detect. And it's challenging in many different ways. And I used in years like the first the space observatory AstroSat, and this is the satellite was built in India. It's at the various of the institutes, including KIFR, IUCA, Indian Institute of Astrophysics, Raman Research Institute, and ISRO. All this is the satellite. It's our home base, and I use that to detect one of the first time a signal in UV astronomy, or the first time in astronomy. So if you have such technology and the available to us, like I'm an end user in that sense, so I use that to like to detect something like that, and in future I believe that when you talk about the technology or talk about the science, I have a very I sit in my office corner. I am not sitting at the top level in the country, so I don't have a broad vision. I have a very narrow vision in that sense. So what I wanted to say is that one must ask fundamental questions. If you don't have the fundamental question, you can't like technology can't be like the built in that sense. So to me, it's like the fundamental question that should drive like achieving that technology. So if I say that tomorrow I started with the theorist, pen paper theorist, then I went to N-body, computational physics, cluster computing, and then I started like when I in India I became an observational astronomer, and in future I want to be in instrumentation. So I want to go into where the building instrument. Why? Because that's where you need to do what you need to do. Because if you want to go answer the first, like how the first galaxies formed, you need to go to such a sensitivity and high-end, like sort of telescope and the detector technology that you need to build. That it's needed for that. So I think to me is that you must first be excited with the fundamental question, and that should be driving force for to grab like whatever the technology requires. So we must go towards that. And with that, I think I should stop. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, for your valued deliberation on your domain, and it is a fact that we need to go deep into the fundamentals first, and then that will definitely drive to some kind of conclusion to come to a consensus. Thank you once again, sir.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, let us all welcome Dr. Kairak Sai Krishnan as the next speaker to the lecture.
Dr. Sai Krishnan is a professor in the Department of Biology and Indian Institute of Science, Education and Research, that is in Pune. He was awarded the Shanti Sarup Bhatnagar Prize for Science and Technology in the year 2019 in Biological Sciences for his outstanding contributions in the area of structural biology by providing remarkable insights into the functioning of restriction, modification enzymes, which play a very important role in bacterial defense. His present research interests include structural studies of enzymes crucial for DNA replication, recombination, modification, and repair. He is a part of editorial board and reviewers panel for numerous journals of reputed publishing houses like Elsevier, Springer, Cellpress, etc. So please.
Thank you very much for the kind words. It's a real honor to be here in Jorhat, Kaziranga University. This is my first visit to this far east. So thanks to Dr. Goswami, Professor Misha for inviting me to this wonderful meeting. It's an event that is really churning thoughts in my mind, I guess all of us. And it's, I hope, going to be a real sessions of brainstorming on all the topics that were mentioned earlier. As was mentioned just now, my research involves proteins that act on DNA. We all have cells, we are all made up of cells. There are bacteria which are made up of one cell, there are humans made up of many more cells, and the DNA content is what determines the way one either grows or what one does, and that is the genetic information. Now the genetic information has to be, the integrity of the genetic information has to be restored, maintained and restored. It does get corrupted. It does get corrupted by nature itself, like ionic radiation, smoking, and so on. Enzymes are present in the cell, these are proteins, which can repair the DNA and thus restore back the damage that might have been caused to the DNA. And this is an important process. And it is this process which would broadly fall in the category of molecular biology. We study this process in molecular detail using the techniques of biophysics. This includes X-ray crystallography, cryo-EM, cryo-electron microscopy, and so on. What are we doing? We are looking at the molecule in atomic detail. And why is it necessary? It's necessary because the function of a protein or the enzyme that I mentioned that can repair or modify DNA is facilitated by its structure, three-dimensional structure. And knowing this structure is integral to understanding how this protein works. And that's something that I try to decipher. So in simple terms, I'm a basic fundamental scientist. I look at things, try to understand at the fundamental level how it works, try to understand the mechanism, and then we think, what could be happening in the cell? Could it be used to our benefit in some way or the other? So these are questions that arise in the back of our mind. And these are questions that is not limited to just me, but I think most of us have these questions arising whenever one hears about things being carried out in a very elegant, simplistic way. Can it be utilized for man's benefit? And that's when technology comes in. And when one uses proteins, enzymes, for technological benefit, it becomes biotechnology. The enzymes that I work with do something remarkable. This was not known until we studied them in great detail. It was assumed that they would function like any other enzymes that was characterized before or studied before. What we discovered is that the enzyme shreds DNA. If a piece of DNA is provided to the enzyme, it literally shreds like a paper shredder and totally destroys the genetic content. Now one would imagine that this is a dangerous enzyme to work with because it's damaging the genetic information, and that's how I started. We want to maintain the integrity of the genetic information. But thinking back, if such a system could be used to destroy DNA that are not useful for us or that are harmful for us, one such piece of DNA is called a don't worry about the name, but I'm telling the name, it's plasmid, it's a circular piece of DNA which carries genetic information to degrade antibiotics. Now when such a piece of DNA enters bacteria, the bacteria becomes what is called antibiotic resistant. Now can we use the shredders that I've discovered for preventing this? These are questions that the bachelor students at IISER Pune have been trying to unravel under the supervision of my PhD students. There are a lot of things of similar, of technological value that, or biomedical value that can be thought about. And I have certain ways of thinking, so possibly my thoughts are limited. A lot of students here, maybe they could think about this. How can such DNA shredders be used for? And with that, I'll stop my
Thank you, Sana, for your insight into your own domain related to germs and DNA. So though it doesn't enter into my mind, but still I'm more interested to know about that. And whenever we have this brainstorming session, we will get more deep into that, and that will be possible for each and everyone out here. Next, we would like to welcome Dr. Kinshuk Das Gupta to the lectern.
Dr. Kinshuk Das Gupta is a research scientist associated with Bhabha Atomic Research Center, Mumbai. He also holds an associate professorship at the Homi Bhabha National Institute. Due to his path-breaking achievements, he has been awarded the prestigious Shanti Swarup Bhatnagar Prize for Science and Technology for his contributions to engineering sciences in 2020. His present research expertise mainly includes work on carbon-based nanomaterials and composite synthesis of nanomaterials. His research achievements include pioneering research in armor panel detection named Bhava Kavach against bullets of different threat levels that are light in weight. He has also been a Fulbright visiting scholar during 2018 till 2019 at University of Cincinnati.
Please welcome Dr. Kinshuk Das Gupta with a big round of applause.
Thank you very much, Dr. Goswami, Dr. Misra, and all other organizers, and also the students. I think this is time for dinner, and still you are there. So it is really commendable. It's very difficult. Means in my time, I used to find it is very difficult to stay back till this time. So now I would say I was lucky to get admitted in Bhabha Atomic Research Center in 1999. That was a training school. That some scheme is there called training school, where you get training for in nuclear science and technology for 1 year, and then after your BTech or MSc. If you are in science stream, after MSc, and if you are engineering, then after BE you can get admitted there by giving the entrance exam and interview. And that time, that is 2000, we finished our training program, and means we got absorbed at the ARC, and our director was nothing but Dr. Anil Kakotkar, who gave his first lecture. Now that time, in 1998, India had the peaceful explosion, and there was embargo. So, our first meeting with Dr. Kakotkar, he told us that you look at this as opportunity, not embargo. Should you look at opportunity, try to build a technology developed for the nation, which is required for the nation. And another thing, you can say, term what we learned from Dr. Kaziranga, that is called reverse embargo. We stopped using USA make any item. Even you may be knowing that Dr. Kaziranga was instrumental in 123 agreement with USA, and still today BARC doesn't buy anything from USA. So something called reverse embargo means any US origin item we can reject. So that is the self-reliance which we started developing from I think 1998 onwards, and that gave us some I would say confidence of making technology. Now coming back to my research, as they have told, I started working in the field of carbon-based materials and then carbon nanomaterials. Nowadays, you learn about carbon nanotube graphene. These are very exotic materials. You can get so many good properties. Is my voice audible? Am I audible? Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Hello.
Hello. So I was working on nanomaterials, but the question comes, why? Why I am working? Means, is it to publish the paper, or is it really to make something out of nanomaterial? Because why nanomaterials are important, they have some exotic properties, but unless we can utilize those exotic properties to make the product, then I don't think that we are really doing something great with nanomaterials. And then suddenly we had the opportunity to use these nanomaterials to develop now I would say the lightest bulletproof jacket, that is called Bhava Kavach. We have used carbon nanotubes, and by which we could bring down the weight from 12 kg to 6.8 kg. So how it was important? See, basically this started in 2015. That time Director General of CRPF visited BARC and he told, we are really struggling with the heavy jackets in you can say difficult terrain. It is really difficult for the Jawans. It is very difficult to wear those heavy jackets. And what they do, sometimes as a protocol they need to wear, but they remove all those heavy material, just put the foam, and they go for the battle. See, they don't bother about their lives. If you think army person, they think about their lives. It is not like that. When they go for fight, they don't think about their lives. So even they can go without any jacket. But then if they are not wearing a proper jacket, then we are unnecessarily losing the valuable lives. So then it came to our mind that whether we can utilize the nanotechnology really to bring down the weight of those jackets and make them feel comfortable. And I would say yes, we were successful. And this research could resulted in, so another important person in my life, I would say to all the students, that in different phase of your life you get some persons who motivate you in school level, in college level, even in your work level. So I also was very lucky to get different persons. So during my PhD time, when I was again BRC person, when Professor J.B. Joshi was there, he is also Padma Bhushan. And when you talk to this Padma Bhushan people, you can understand they did not get Padma Bhushan just like that. Some quality is there, some vision is there, some fundamental thinking is there. So he coined a term, can we make mega effect out of nanomaterial? That struck our mind. Yes, whether we can make mega effect out of nanomaterials. Yes, that happened. And still we are working on, at present, making, you can say, macro scale product out of nanomaterial, because most of, at present what happens, if you add nanomaterials to certain material, we just enhancing the property of that material where we are adding, not utilizing the potential of the nanomaterial itself. We can utilize that if we can make a full product out of nanomaterial. Our present research is on that aspect. So I would term myself mostly as a technologist, not too much into the basic science. I try to understand the science and try to make technology which is necessary for the country also. So our country really require technologies on which we have fundamental knowledge, but we don't have those materials in our possession, and we need to import them still. So if we try to work on those aspects, I think we can do good for the country, and I hope the future, the students, they should think in direction and go ahead. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. It is indeed a commendable task or job performed by the scientists from the bark in order to lower down the weight of the bullet jacket so the jawans of our country can take the risk of their lives for the nation, for the country as well. Thank you once again, sir.
Next up, we have Dr. Vatsala Thirumalai.
She is a principal scientist associated with National Center in Biological Sciences, in short we call it NCBS, Bangalore. As recognition of her pioneering studies, she was awarded with Shanti Swarup Bhatnagar Prize Award in 2020. She possesses years of postdoctoral research experience with working in CSHL, that is in New York, and NIH, that is in Bethesda. She started her research group in NCBS, Bangalore, and presently involved in research in the field of neurobiology. Her group is actively investigating on neural circuits, that is, working of the neural circuits that cause physical movements in animals. Her years of research led to numerous high-impact publications with journals associated with Elsevier, Springer, Nature, Cell, or CSHL Press. She is presently associated as editor and reviewer with a large number of reputed journals.
Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together and welcome Dr. Vatsala Thirumalai.
Good evening, everybody. As the last speaker in this session, I have a huge responsibility because I'm standing between you and dinner. So I'm going to be as brief as possible. First of all, thanks to the organizers, Assam Kaziranga University and ALIST Bangalore, for inviting me to this prestigious conference. It's been indeed a great pleasure coming and listening to all the wonderful work that happens in all various disciplines of science and technology across the country, and get to know my colleagues here. It's also a great pleasure to visit this part of the country. This is my first visit not only to Assam, it's also my first visit to the northeast part of the country. So it's indeed been a great pleasure looking at the natural beauty around here. So let me introduce my research a little bit more. I am a neurobiologist. I am interested in how the brain works. And mostly, we look at questions dealing with how does the brain process information and how does that processing of information lead to action. Because every organism that you see outside, be it, lowly fly to human beings, when they receive information from the outside world in the form of sensory information, whether they are looking at the outside world or smelling things or hearing things. Ultimately, the animal uses that for generating movement. Movement to find food, find partners, or to escape from predators. So these are all important for the survival of the animal. And so integrating information to generate movement is critical for survival. So if you want to understand how is it that animals evolved to such an advanced state where we can process information coming in at us at a rapid rate, how does the human brain work? You have to start, pretty low in the hierarchy and first understand how is it that, every animal from flies to human can move according to what they want to do at the moment. So that is the question that my lab is interested in. And we actually use an animal that comes from this part of the country. It's the zebrafish. You can find it in the tributaries of the Brahmaputra and the Ganges. You can find it in paddy fields around here. And we use this animal because in early stages of life, this animal is completely transparent. So you can put the larval zebrafish under a microscope and you can look at the brain, and using special genetic engineering techniques, you can watch the brain in action. You can actually see the neurons functioning. And you can monitor what the animal is doing at the same time. So that means that you can decode, you can say, okay, the animal swam like this and then the brain did this. So what is the connection between the two? So this offers us the best method for decoding how the brain works, and that's what we do in my lab. In the next few minutes, I'll wrap up by evangelizing a little bit for basic scientific research. I am a huge evangelist for basic scientific research, and the reasons are threefold. There are many reasons. I could think of three on the top of my mind tonight. The first reason, when I was in high school, I was curious. I had a burning question in my mind: how does the brain work? For whatever reason, studying biology, that was the question that I thought was most exciting for me to follow up. And that curiosity and dreaming to be a neurobiologist is what has made me stand up here tonight, right? And so every child is born with curiosity and asks questions. Why is it like this? Why does the bird fly? How does the insect go and find nectar? They are full of questions. They're full of curiosity. And over a period of time, cracking exams, entrance exams, and getting into college and all that, for the bulk of the children, we managed to kill their curiosity. And if we were to feed that curiosity, we can be leaders in science and technology, right? And so it is our responsibility to feed the curiosity of children of this country. And as Dr. Anil Kakodkar said, the youth of this country, the demographic spread is our greatest advantage. And having fundamental scientific research in this country means that we are feeding the dreams and the curiosities of billions of kids, not only in our country, we also get students from abroad. So we can actually work towards having the biggest training ground for scientific research. So that's one. Second, the fruits of basic scientific research are not immediately obvious. When Professor C.V. Raman was traveling on that ship and looked at the blue sea and asked why is the sea blue, he did not imagine that Raman spectroscopy will have all the different applications that it has today, going from non-destructive testing to even tumor screening. So what you do today in terms of fundamental research, without actually knowing what the applications could be, you don't know where it will lead you to. And therefore, to say that I will do only what has applications today is actually like shooting yourself in the foot. So a blue sky approach is needed. Third reason and last reason, and I will stop there, is that we can't always predict the challenges that will be thrown at us. The most recent example is COVID. When COVID came, we were in need of RT-PCR testing by the millions. Until that day, RT-PCR was not a commonly used word in this country, but suddenly now everybody knows what RT-PCR is. Where did that knowledge come from? Where did that infrastructure come from? Where did the human resources for running RT-PCR tests come from? My own institute in Bangalore, we set up a test center which was run by faculty and students, PhD students, who volunteered their time and participated in COVID testing. So when there is a challenge of that sort, a really big challenge, investing in science and technology, we could do that only because we were having the equipment and the manpower who were already trained in RT-PCR, but for research. These students were doing molecular biology research in a lab, and they were able to put their skill into use for a challenge that was thrown at the nation. So therefore, to be prepared for challenges that we don't know, to be ready for applications that may come from down the road from many years later, and to feed the curiosity of the next generation, we should have fundamental blue sky approach to science and technology. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for your kind words.
Couple of minutes to go in order to wind up this particular inaugural session of the national conference. Before we wind up, we would like to directly contact with our honorable chief guest. Questions may be raised and the answers will be provided by our chief guest. Anyone who wish to ask questions directly can come forward, please.
Sir, your microphone is off. Dr. Kakotkar, can you hear me? Your microphone is off. Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Yeah, I just would like to ask maybe two if you allow. And the first question is sort of two in one. The question is that, do you think it would be a good idea to identify a few very high impact projects and go into them in a mission mode, and along with the conventional research that is going on? And if it is good, then would you like to suggest any few areas?
I'm not too sure that I understood the question. Can you
Yeah, I will
speak slowly and
sure.
repeat?
Yeah. My question is that along with various identified trust areas, various areas of research by different agencies and so on, would it be a good idea to identify a very few blue sky research areas? And if it is so, if you think it would be good, would you like to suggest some areas?
Yes. I think let's look at it this way. India is a large country. We have large, diversity, so we have a very large number of problems. So we must look at science and technology on a very broad basis. So in that context, in addition to the thrust areas, as you said, where different laboratories and scientists are already pursuing, I think it makes sense wherever there are new areas, and you mentioned blue sky areas, I think they are all important. However, I think the question is, I think we are pursuing in India. I don't think there is any area we have neglected, and surely there is scope for picking up new areas and pursuing. So that, the short answer to what you said is a clear yes. However, I think the important thing is in terms of the quality of that research, in terms of the gain that country gets out of that research activity. And this is where we need to focus on. And that requires, in addition to pursuing
the research in a given identified area, whether blue sky or otherwise, it is important that we pursue that research in the right ecosystem. And let me explain what I mean by right ecosystem. And I want to explain that by giving you an example. India is perhaps a country where, in terms of basic understanding, we probably have a very strong community in material science. And it's not today, it's there for decades together. Strong presence and also strong knowledge base. But in spite of that, India missed the microelectronics revolution completely. Now, so this is where that there was a disconnect. Only now one hears that people are talking about creating a fab. So, important thing is that ecosystem, and there are 2 or 3 characteristics which I would like to highlight at this moment. The first one is, provided while doing blue sky research, we are asking important questions. And you want to answer those important questions. Now, many of these questions would require new instrument building. So, rather than doing research, again blue sky or otherwise, research which is focused on what can be done, I think we should focus on research topics or research problems that need to be done, that are required to be carried out, required to be answered. And that is very important. And it is my experience, for example, there are several mega science activities which have been both promoted, piloted and supported in atomic energy. The experience has been that the cutting edge technology, or for that matter tomorrow's technology, lies in building equipment for addressing such research problems. If I have to give an example, you are all aware that the famous World Wide Web technology emerged out of CERN. And so when we were collaborating with CERN on the Large Hadron Collider, there are many things where India contributed as in-kind equipment, in-kind contribution, by making equipment in the country, in industry in India, that included superconducting magnets, that included some precision electronics, precision mechanical. But the example that I want to share here is because it was, people were clear that Large Hadron Collider will produce data which is much larger than what people are used to or were used to at that point of time. So they started talking about grid computing. And my colleagues in atomic energy were a part of developing those elements of those technologies for grid computing. And this was done much earlier than the so-called cluster computing and the parallel processing and things like that. So the point is, when you address such deep questions which are required to be addressed, you develop tools or instruments for doing that research, experimental research. You invariably work on cutting edge technologies, which is a big gain. So even if the research is really fundamental, all those fundamental research activities actually have given India a large advantage in terms of technology. So I think that after this long introduction, the short answer to your question is, I would champion blue sky research as long as it's an important question from both from fundamental standpoint, and would like to work on such research because it also, even if it is blue sky research, even if its application in the immediate time frame is not visible, it does contribute to creation of absolutely cutting edge technology for the country. And I can give you many examples, but reserve it for some other day. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Kaziranga. Yeah, I got the answer. So yes, we aim for blue sky fundamental research, but more immediate development of cutting edge technology. So keep that in mind. Anybody else would like to ask a question?
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, just because you have a very experienced, several decades you have worked for the atomic energy. Just I have one, not questions, but just I want to know your views or your, you can say, overview that how India is, going to be in SNT for the next, because you have seen several decades, of SNT in India, particularly in energy or other scenarios. So how India is going to be, according to you, in the global scenario, how India will have a position? Because what is your opinion? That is I want to know.
You are asking me?
Yes, sir. Yes.
I think again you have to, because I think there is a lot of hum in this sound. If you say slowly, then I will be able to understand it better.
Okay, sir. Actually, in view of your several decade experience in atomic energy or the energy sectors, so what is your opinion or how we visualize India's next 10 years in global position, India's in global positions in science and technology?
Well, I think India is making progress and making rapid progress, so I am quite certain we will see many things happening in next 10 years or 20 years going forward. But I think the important thing is we should focus, again as I said in an earlier comment, we should focus on the right ecosystem. I am sure many of you must have heard about what is known as the triple helix architecture for doing science and technology. But let me elaborate that because this is very important. See, one part is we do research at individual level, and I think that is very important. We must encourage as many new ideas to flourish. So individual research is important. But then, as you enrich this ecosystem in which we are doing research, there must be kind of different people doing their own individual research. One could look for synergy in terms of ideas, synergy in terms of technology, synergy in terms of mutual help, and so on. So ecosystem must permit this synergy, allow people to work across the institution boundaries without too much of bureaucratic hurdles. This next level of that is many of these modern technologies, they require large platforms. I mentioned about a fab in the context of microelectronics. Now, you may do good work in material science, but you want to convert that into the national wealth, you can't do much unless you have a major fab. And this is where India missed that revolution. The triple helix architecture envisages cooperative working between the R&D labs, the industry and the governments. And the challenge is the following. If there has to be investment in such platforms, and these platforms, you take nanotechnology, you talk about the platforms required for advanced subjects like cognition, the genetic engineering. These are all huge, big platforms. Now, government, for it to take investment decision on creating such large platform, is unlikely to do purely on the basis of the research contribution, and that it will support maybe 1,000 scientists or 10,000 scientists, because these costs are, they run typically in billions of dollars. Industry, again, they know that its future is bright, it means big business in future, but between the current state and the future, there is that risk, financial risk. So industry won't take initiative on its own unless it knows that the government also is moving in that direction. And of course, the scientists in the lab, their work should create enough confidence, both on part of the government as well as on part of the industry, that there could be co-investment, the investment by the government as well as investment by the industry, and there should be confidence that the scientists making use of this, eventually it will become a major industrial enterprise. Because if you are making that kind of investment, it has to become an industrial enterprise. Then only that investment would get justified. So it is this co-working together, and this also requires policy making, because these are all transformative technologies which will require a lot of policy improvements for the technology to benefit society. Maybe that technology can create problems in the society. There are issues like that. So again, policy formulation concurrent with setting up such platforms is a very important thing. So I think what we need is an ecosystem where this triple helix architecture can flourish. And for this you require large institutions, you require large participation of industry, and you require an enlightened government, both in terms of investment as well as policy making. So these are the three strands which have to work together, and they need to remain interconnected at multiple levels, and that's why they call it triple helix. So this, particularly for the new advanced technology, the so-called R&D intensive industry, which is likely to be the most important vehicle for the rapid economic growth. If India has to get onto that pathway, then we must facilitate this transformation in kind of collaboration, co-working, and full synergy between these three players. And I think next 10 years, as you were asking, the bigger countries in the world who are kind of leading the science and technologies horizon, as well as the new economic horizon led by science and technology, if we have to be on par with them or catch up with them, then we will have to create such environment. And if we don't, then we may get lag behind the way we lost microelectronics. So I am optimistic. I would like to remain optimistic. And I think several things. The Indian science will make big contributions. That has been happening in past. If you look at the science, technology, innovation indicators, I think it is one of the areas where there is the most rapid progress. Compared to any other country, India's science, technology, innovation indicators are moving at much faster pace. But given that, to convert that into value, I think we have miles to go. It's a cultural evolution. We need to understand this whole domain in a very clear way and organize ourselves to work together. And if we do that, then we will not only make big progress in terms of SDI indicators, which we are anyway doing, but we will also help making India a leading country in the world, which is the objective of this discussion. So that is how I see. I am optimistic about future.
Yeah, thank you, sir.
Anybody else?
Anyone would like to ask any question?
Yeah.
Yes.
Hello, Dr. Kapatkar. So, thank you very much for the explanation that you talked about the ecosystem. I believe, I mean that's a very fundamental requirement. But is there any initiative from the government side to build such ecosystem at the current stage, or is it just a conceptually as a conceptual stage? And secondly, given that I hear almost from the mouth of, like, I don't have any document to prove, but most of the time I hear that the university sectors, they don't even have basic funding to, like, do in the research. So how this ecosystem can come even in the first place into existence?
I'm sorry, you have to again repeat slowly. There is a huge amount of hum. Echo hum.
So the first question is there any initiative from the government side to build this ecosystem?
Well, yes and no, in the sense, I think, for example, there is a huge startup movement in the country, and I think that environment, encouragement to young people who are getting into startups and all, I think it is far, far better today than it was earlier. So that way, I think there is a big improvement. However, when we are talking about innovation, on this platform, in this group of eminent scientists, we should be talking about, and Saraswat made this point, that we should be talking about innovation of, translation of or ideas emerging out of the latest in research into cutting edge technology ahead of anybody else. That kind of innovation. And that is what will propel India forward. So I think there probably we need to do more, particularly in terms of being very, very discriminative about we need to be able to discriminate scientists based on their merit, as was said. We need to be able to provide a support system based on the potential, even if there is a failure somewhere, as a very important point. So, I think there is a change, and we need to certainly bring in even more change. but the change is, the things are happening in the positive direction. That's what I would say. What is your second question?
I think my second question is probably far away. Because what I was saying that in the university sector, when what I hear is that there is not much of an opportunity to do even the basic research. So how the ecosystem can reach there? So the nucleation of the
We are talking about opportunities for doing basic research, is it?
yeah, the opportunities for the basic research are probably not much in the university sector, the Indian universities.
Yeah.
So
No, I think university sector research is extremely important. Uh, I myself, towards the end of my career in atomic energy, I strongly started feeling that while we developed all the nuclear technologies and uh, in spite of the embargo and other things, we sort of took them to world-class level, made the world realize that India is capable technology capable country, cannot be ignored. While all that is true, when I ask the question to myself that what is it that we are doing which has not been done by others? What is it that we are doing first time ever? I couldn't find a satisfactory answer for myself. And this is where one realizes the need for open-ended university research. Because once you are in a mission mode, and you need to be in mission mode to do big things, to carry it, as I mentioned to you, this large platform technologies and all, I think there is some mission orientation which is necessary. But what about such as those technologies of that, I mentioned about requiring triple helix architecture. Now, what about such domains which did not or which do not exist now but may become important in future? Now, are we going to wait for others to start that and then follow them? Or will be bold enough to sort of figure it out on the basis of the research knowledge that we know, and we'll be able to launch that activity ourselves, and then let world follow if they want to. Now, this is where we need to go, and for that I think open-ended university research of the highest class, I mean universities which would be probably ranked within top 50 of the global ranking. Now, that is the kind of environment we need. And that I think is crucial. And at the moment, I think there is a gap between that stage and even after accounting our best of institutions, I think there is a gap, and that we need to bridge. But I think given that encouraging scientists to get into new research area is something that we should always remain focused on. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
So there is a question, maybe from Dr. Jimon from Thiruvananthapuram. Is it a question, sir, or you would like to add some points to what has been dictated by our chief guest?
No, thank you very much. It's a question again. Sir, you talked about the ecosystem, the research ecosystem. And one of the key areas that probably we are lacking is in terms of providing mentorship to our young faculty members in various universities. And I've been receiving comments about this lack of mentorship facility. What is your thought about it? How we can strengthen our mentorship capacity in terms of providing key inputs to our young researchers across our universities, and how we can instill that culture of providing mentorship support to young researchers?
I think that's a very crucial point. uh, I think young researchers who are showing promise, I'm not saying everybody, and as I said, we need to discriminate. Treating everybody alike on a democratic process uh, doesn't go in the direction of nurturing excellence. And that's where this important peer group is very important. Assessment of individuals in the hierarchical system, and many times even universities we tend to become hierarchical, is actually a killer. And I am not talking about researchers who are showing promise. I am talking about researchers who show promise on the basis of assessment of the peer group, uh, consisting of a good combination of both internal as well as external people. But external is equally important. Now, once such a peer group identifies some promising young faculty, I think we should give them all support in terms of exposure to the world of science, both in India and abroad. So that makes tours, attending conferences, in terms of membership of important professional bodies. And of course, whether to give that membership or not, it depends on the academics concerned. So, and that I think they will do their own due diligence. But at least there should be proactive promotion of these people to bring forth such individuals in terms of support, in terms of even in publications. If somebody is working on a problem which is quite different from whatever is fashionable in that area, and supposing that problem is extremely important for India. For example, the question of non-communicable diseases, which was mentioned. I'll talk about that in a moment, but continue on this thread. Now, if that problem is important and somebody is doing, I think it is for the community of peers to support certain individuals. Many times you write a paper and send it abroad in an internationally reputed journal, and if that problem that has not been recognized as an important enough problem internationally because they have not been exposed to that problem. Many times this young lad would suffer. He will have difficulty in publication. So I think the peers have a lot of role to play, and not to just sit in that promotion interview and decide. It's like mentoring is extremely important, and that is an important part of the ecosystem. Let me talk a little bit about this non-communicable diseases. That mention triggered this in mind. We were doing Technology Vision 2035 in TIFAD. So while of course we looked at different domains for technologies, but we also said let us identify the grand challenges before the country. And it was a diverse group, everybody put down, but we said we'll identify 10 grand challenges, so which will be most important. And also we'll write them in order of priority. And something which I was knowing the problem, but I was not knowing that it is such an important problem. That problem came out to be the mother-child anemia and the deficiency of iron supplements, and this is a problem which is, there are national programs on this right since the day of independence. Fortified iron tablets and all kinds of things, and I think I can't even imagine what kind of money would have been spent. All that has only benefited multinationals, but that iron has not, because it didn't get assimilated in the body. So it's a serious problem, and it needs to be understood. And in fact, when this happened, we took this matter to ICMR, and ICMR also agreed. And in fact, we had a full day seminar to discuss this issue. So All I'm trying to say is national challenge, and the group said this is #1 grand challenge before the country. And look at it, TAFEC, we're all group of engineers. Biosciences also is a part of technology, but
Maybe some kind of technical issue.
thank you.
Yes.
Anybody from the audience?
Good afternoon. Rather good evening. Sir, actually I have witnessed to the two problems of ecosystem, breaking the ecosystem or destroyed the ecosystem. One is the parallel computing or supercomputing research. It was way back to 1986 to 90. Another is ECIL, the microelectronics ecosystem. That is also broken that particular time. So what is the need for that? Can you explain something like that?
You said parallel processing systems.
Parallel processing systems, supercomputer research and CDAC, Professor Bhatkar was handling it.
So what is the challenge it has created?
Not challenge, actually they've broken the ecosystem because nowadays very good research are actually not doing parallel computing, matrix multiplication with the parallel GPS GPU system to do that. And these are all because of the India, we don't have any infrastructures or any engagement like that, because already supercomputer research already mostly not happening. That's what was the need of that breaking the link.
Well, I'm not too sure whether I have understood the
What I'm saying that
talent, but yeah, please.
what I'm asking that when there was a ecosystem for parallel computing and supercomputing infrastructure to build by India, but it was broken.
Broken.
Why? What was the need for that?
So you mean the breaking of the ecosystem for parallel processing has created a problem? That's what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay. I will give an answer from purely my perspective. People here may have different perspectives, so some of you may not agree with me. But let me share what I think about it. See, first thing we should recognize is that development of parallel processing technology has enabled India to overcome the tremendous challenge we are facing in terms of our computing resources. Particularly when it comes to solving large problems, we didn't have access to the big powerful computers, and that challenge was country very successfully overcame by putting whatever nodes that were available in the market, by putting them in parallel configuration and building the building the required computing capability. So I think parallel processing technology has actually enabled us to overcome the problems created by embargo, not only in atomic energy but country as a whole, because it's only after the civil nuclear cooperation agreements that we have started getting computers and chips of higher order. Otherwise they were all very difficult in Indian market. And parallel processing was one way where they realized that anyway India is going ahead, so why can't we do business? So, but in that doing, there are always this vendor pressure at work. So while India was going ahead with parallel processing, the vendors started offering better and better computer technology. Now, I'm not saying that we should shun that away and not benefit from that. We should. But when we become, in the sense, when such difficult to access technologies become easy to access, normally I have seen self-reliance is a casualty. Indians, we are very soft on that. We are very hard that we will do ourselves and all. Moment somebody shows a lollipop, the whole determination melts away. So now you can blame individuals for that, you can blame institutions for that, you can also blame government for that. But ultimately, I think it's a matter for us in the scientific community. I remember, the embargo started after 1974 and they become tighter after 1998. But in atomic energy, Dr. Bhabha's philosophy of self-reliance started from day one. At that time, there was no embargo. And I remember in Bharat, there used to be an issue because our purchase committee won't allow people to import things if it can be made in the country. And even if it can be made in the country with great difficulty, the decision would be make it in the country and then only put it to research. And there are the paying people. The scientists would say that no, the rest of the world will go way ahead of us, we will be left behind. And those arguments were there. So, and I'm not saying that in Bharat we don't have that weakness. That weakness exists everywhere. And so my blunt assessment or response to what you said is that we are very soft people and fall prey to such kind of maneuvers by vendors. But having said that, I would say that the strategy for import should be done with great judicious approach. I would not say that we will not buy anything from abroad. In fact, some of the high technology, it's important that you buy because then you make progress. But simultaneously, you must have strategy to so-called indigenize that technology. And we have done that in many places. We have done that. So this is a game to be played, and game to be played with very hardcore mindset, which is important. But I'm not too sure how many of you will agree with me, but that's my response. Thank you. What was your second question?
That was the only question, sir.
Okay.
Only one question, right? Okay.
All right.
We would like to give a standing ovation to our chief guest this evening because he has been very instrumental from the beginning of this very national conference till we come to the end of this conference. And he was really enthusiastic. He had taken all the queries in a very possible way in pertinent to science and technology. We wish you a very healthy life, and God might shower you with all the strength so that you can contribute for the nation, you can contribute for the world as a whole, sir. Thank you once again.
Thank you.
A couple of minutes to wind up this very session, and we would like to call upon stage Dr. Swetambara Verma, Associate Professor, Department of Civil Engineering, to offer her vote of thanks.
Honorable Vice Chancellor Dr. P.K. Mishra, Padma Bhushan Dr. A. Kakurkar, former Chairman, Atomic Energy Commission, Dr. Prashanta Goswami, Chairman, National Organizing Committee and Chairman, IFSC, Dr. V.K. Saraswat, Honorable Member, Niti Aayog, respected speakers, Dr. Abhijit Mukherjee, Dr. Vinay Kumar Saikia, Dr. Jeeman Panimakkal, Dr. Kanak Shaha, Dr. Kairat Sai Krishnan, Dr. Kinshuk Das Gupta, Dr. Vatsala Trivul Malay, and my dear colleagues, students and delegates. We have assembled here for the inaugural function of the 3-day National Conference on Achieving Leadership for India in Science and Technology. This conference is meant to comprehend the strength, challenges, opportunities, and eventually invest on a threat analysis for creating a roadmap for India to achieve global leadership and high societal impact in science and technology. Identification of potential areas for leadership in the field of science and technology, having an exhaustive understanding of the various elements of Indian research ecosystem, namely science, policies, industry, eventually application in and for the society will be addressed in today's and forthcoming sessions. I'm sure that all the participants of the conference will be benefited. Now let me move on to the duty entrusted to me. It is my privilege to propose vote of thanks on this occasion. Dr. P.K. Mishra, Honorable Vice Chancellor of the Assam Kaziranga University, inaugurated the program. The university is doing wonders under his able guidance. Our university has achieved a noble vigor and vitality. On behalf of Kaziranga University family, I express our deep gratitude to you, sir. Padma Bhushan Dr. A. Kakurkar, former Chairman, Atomic Energy Commission. Dr. Kakurkar's contribution to the energy sector is tremendous, and Dr. Kakurkar played a key role in formulating various ambitious agreements of national importance, and he has an immense contribution in the field of education and literature as well. He is a constant inspiration for all of us here. On behalf of Kaziranga University family, I express our deep gratitude to you, sir. Dr. P. Prashanta Goswami, Chairman, National Organizing Committee and Chairman, IFSA, is known for his incredible contribution in the field of tropical atmospheric variability across the time scales. On behalf of Kaziranga University family, I record my deep sense of gratitude to you, sir. Dr. V.K. Saraswat, Honorable Member Niti Aayog, is a distinguished scientist with a vast experience in research, both in basic and applied sciences, spanning several decades. Having him amongst us is a privilege for us. On behalf of Kaziranga University family, I express our sincere thanks to you, sir. The respected speakers for the day, Dr. Abhijit Mukherjee, Dr. Vinay Kumar Saikia, Dr. Jeeman Panimakkal, Dr. Kanak Shaha, Dr. Kairat Sai Krishnan, Dr. Kinshuk Das Gupta, Dr. Vatsala Trimulai, with their immense knowledge, experience and wisdom had enlightened us through their expertise and talks in the field of reaching from hydrogeology, carbon-based nanomaterials, neurobiology, coal technology, atmospheric astrophysics to cardiac diseases. On behalf of Kaziranga University family, I record our deep, sincere gratitude to you all. Thank you for giving us time. I also thank all the sponsors of this program. An event like this will not happen overnight. The wheels start rolling weeks ago. It requires plannings and bird's eye for all the details. We have been fortunate to be back with the team of very motivated and dedicated colleagues and students. I thank everyone for extending their willingness to take various responsibilities for making the first day a grand success. I thank all the delegates of this program for showing their interest to participate in this conference. And once again, thank you all very much, you who have assembled here. Thank you once again, and thanks, last but not the least, thanks to the organizing committee members. Thank you all. Thank you so much, ma'am, for the vote of thanks. As we all know, the end of a story is the new beginning for many others. On this note, let's conclude a memorable, remarkable, and knowledgeable inaugural session.
On behalf of the Assam Kaziranga University and Institute of Frontier Science and Application, we sincerely thank the dignitaries for being with us this very evening and enlightening us with their enthusiastic remarks. We shower our heartfelt gratitude to the organizers, especially back the stage we have Dr. Tatimalla Rao sir, we have Sinha sir, Utpal Burman sir, we have Plavan Bora, and a lot of enthusiastic persons associated with the organizing committee. And on behalf of the Assam Kaziranga family, we offer wholehearted vote of thanks, a remark from the anchors over here, and thank you very much. Have a wonderful night.